As soon as Emma walked in, John held up the cake in front of her.
Happy birthday, honey!
There was no joy on her face. Instead, she took a step back and sighed.
John, are you proposing again?
John's smile froze. Emma placed the cake on the table and casually sliced it with a knife.
Where is it hidden? Only you could come up with such a low-key proposal. What if I actually ate it? You always act without considering the consequences.
The once beautiful cake was now a mess, and Emma had lost her patience, slamming the knife onto the table.
It's not hidden in the cake.
He took out the ring box from his suit jacket.
Don't open it. I won't say yes.
Why? Emma, I really want to marry you.
John hugged her, feeling lost.
You said you wanted to focus on your career, but now your company has gone public.
I promise, after we get married, you won't have to do anything but focus on your work. I won't interfere with you.
Emma pushed him away.
John, I don't want to get married. At least not now.
John tightly gripped the ring box, forcing a bitter smile.
This is the 99th time, Emma. You've rejected me 99 times. Aren't you afraid I won't have the courage for the 100th?
Emma ignored his emotions, stood up, and handed him her clothes.
John, don't be so childish. Remember to hand wash and dry these for me. I need them tomorrow.
John recognized all her clothes, but this one was new to him. Only then did he notice she was dressed differently from when she left for work. Her long legs, usually covered in stockings, were bare, and the crisp shirt he had ironed was now slightly wrinkled. He brought the jacket close to his nose. The clothes were new. John, a pampered young master, had learned to do laundry and cook after being with her. Stuffing the ring back into his suit jacket, he threw it onto the sofa and ran his carefully styled hair back. Hiding his hurt feelings, he went to the bathroom. Emma was blow-drying her hair, and he took the dryer from her hand.
I'm sorry, I didn't think it through.
After drying her hair, he hugged her from behind.
I'll wait for you.
A complex light flashed in Emma's eyes. She held his hand and turned to kiss him.
You're too young. Marriage is a big deal and shouldn't be taken lightly.
Since reaching the legal marriage age, John had been proposing to her. For 3 years, Emma had used various reasons to reject him. Now, it was simply that she didn't want to get married.
Then I'll wait until you're ready.
Today, Emma was unusually passionate. We hadn't been intimate for almost half a month. She always used work fatigue as an excuse to refuse me. The pent-up frustration was finally released. In the middle, I wanted to turn on the light.
Do you mind if I turn on the light?
She clung to my neck.
Don't.
She wasn't a shy person in bed. Although I found it a bit strange, I went along with her wishes. It wasn't until I carried her to the bathroom to clean up that I noticed the marks all over her body, some even turning purple. Emma didn't like me leaving marks, so I often restrained myself. Tonight was a bit intense, but I was afraid she'd be angry when she woke up, so I didn't dare to be too forceful.
How did it get this bad?
Emma opened her eyes and weakly pinched my ear.
You hurt me. I recently had a full-body spa treatment. Is my skin better than before?
Her watery eyes looked at me.
It's always been great.
We fooled around in the bathroom again. Emma fell into a deep sleep. I stared at her sleeping face, feeling a sense of satisfaction. She hadn't been this clingy to me in a long time. I was so emotional that I held her for a long time without falling asleep. Smelling her fragrance, I couldn't help but kiss her face repeatedly.
Alex, I'm tired, no more.
I froze. Alex was her first love's name. When Emma and I first got together, she often called his name in her dreams. But it happened less and less over time, and I was relieved, thinking she was finally forgetting him. I resisted the urge to wake Emma up and lay down beside her. Staring at the ceiling, I touched my empty heart and thought of the new coat she wore today. I didn't have the habit of checking Emma's phone, she didn't like it. But at this moment, jealousy consumed me. I picked up her phone and entered the password, but it showed incorrect. Our passwords were each other's birthdays. Emma had changed it without me knowing. I took a deep breath and turned her face to unlock it. Her top pin chat had changed from just me to two. The other one had no note, just the initials GM with a dot.
GM, Emma.
I clicked in, and there was only a verification message from the other party.
Alex.
I'm not the type to hold back. Otherwise, I wouldn't have confessed to Emma knowing she had a boyfriend back then. Early in the morning, I woke her up and sat her at the table for breakfast.
Did you meet Alex?
She froze for a moment, then her face turned cold.
You checked my phone?
Then came a barrage of scolding.
John, didn't I tell you I don't like you touching my phone? Don't you understand respect?
And calling out his name in your sleep last night was respectful?
Bitterness filled me.
Emma, who is really your boyfriend? What did you and Alex do behind my back?
What do you mean behind your back? Are you accusing me of cheating?
Emma threw the milk in her hand at my face. I blinked, the milk dripping down my eyelashes. Wiping my face, I stood up and walked to the bathroom.
Explain yourself, what do you mean?
She grabbed me.
Nothing.
But at least I wouldn't call out my ex's name while being with my girlfriend.
I shook off Emma's hand. She called after me.
John, stop.
I didn't stop. Emma's voice was tinged with tears.
John.
She ran over and hugged me from behind.
He and I have a project together. There's nothing between us. Last night, I'm sorry, I didn't know. Maybe it's just been too long since I last saw him.
Her tears soaked my back, burning hot. I couldn't stand seeing her cry. After a long standoff, I still turned around and hugged her, wiping away her tears. Her eyes were red and swollen, looking at me with grievance.
Emma, do you not want to marry me because you're still thinking about Alex?
Besides him, John couldn't think of anyone else Emma would care about. She was silent for a few seconds, then shook her head and stood on tiptoe to hug his neck, burying her face in his shoulder. But he waited a long time and didn't hear her deny it. After being together for so many years, seeing her sad still made John's heart ache. Whenever she showed weakness, he would always be the first to give in. But this time, he felt his heart begin to waver. He didn't take the initiative to comfort Emma, and she was very angry. After a few initial explanations, she gave him the cold shoulder and even slept in a separate room. A week later, John couldn't take it anymore. He traveled across half the city to buy her favorite pastries and a large bouquet of roses, and went to her office to pick her up after work. She didn't answer his calls, and he only found out from her assistant that they had closed a big deal and were out celebrating. When John arrived at the private room and pushed open the door, it fell silent, followed by a burst of screams.
Emma, your boyfriend is here. What a big bouquet of flowers. Did you come to celebrate with Emma? Emma just said you wouldn't come. Are you two showing off on purpose?
John knew all of Emma's employees. They pushed him in front of Emma. She lowered her head and drank, her fair face glowing. John held the flowers in front of her and placed the pastries in her hands.
Honey, please don't be mad anymore, okay? Amidst the teasing, he leaned close to her ear and apologized while kissing her earlobe.
She lifted her eyelids slightly and pushed him away forcefully, not in a playful manner, making the atmosphere heavy. At that moment, a light laugh came from beside her.
Emma, after all these years, he still treats you the same.
The mockery in the laugh was unmistakable. John stiffened and turned his head. Alex raised his glass to him.
John, long time no see.
Seeing that they knew each other, the people in the room quickly changed the subject. Emma's assistant made room for John to sit next to her.
Emma isn't in a good mood. You should comfort her. She gave John a meaningful look. John looked at the person who hadn't said a word since he arrived. Was she really angry with him, or was she upset with someone else?
As soon as John put his arm around Emma's waist, she moved aside, closer to Alex. Alex raised an eyebrow and leaned slightly, their arms touching. This reminded John of how dazzling they were together in the past. Many people glanced at them, their unabashed gazes making John feel uncomfortable. At that moment, Emma handed the bouquet to her assistant.
Distribute these to everyone.
Ha! Her assistant exclaimed, looking at the 99 roses in her hands.
I said, distribute them to everyone.
Her assistant glanced at John, and he clenched the wine glass in his hand, forcing a smile.
Go ahead and distribute them.
When it was Alex's turn, he took the bouquet and played with it, suddenly looking at Emma.
I remember you used to keep the flowers I gave you until they withered. Are you being so generous now because you don't like flowers or because you don't like your boyfriend?
The wine bottle hit Alex's head. Emma's eyes widened, and she shielded him, slapping John. She covered Alex's bleeding forehead, her voice trembling.
I'll take you to the hospital.
Half of Alex's body leaned on Emma, and he provocatively raised an eyebrow at John, his lips brushing against the corner of Emma's mouth. The pastries John bought for Emma were thrown on the ground. He stood there for a long time, and soon, he was the only one left in the room. Taking a deep breath, John called his friend Daniel.
Help me look into Emma and Alex.
Didn't they break up a long time ago? How are they involved again? Bro, I told you from the beginning that Emma wasn't reliable. She only agreed to be with you to help Alex pay off his debts. Look at these years, helping her with deals, buying her houses and cars, even going to your old family home to learn cooking from the housekeeper who's worked there for decades. We grew up together, and I've never tasted your cooking. Why did you do all this? Just for a woman?
Just help me find out what kind of deal they have recently.
He interrupted him and lit a cigarette. Sensing my mood, Daniel cautiously asked me.
Want to grab a drink?
I stood up and kicked away the roses at my feet.
Send me the address.
Emma didn't like my friends, thinking they were all spoiled brats. The first time I took her to meet them, she kept a cold face the entire time. Even when Daniel and the others toasted her, she ignored them. Out of respect for me, they didn't say anything. Emma also didn't like me going out drinking with them, which made them cautious even when talking to me. I loved Emma deeply. No matter how much my friends tried to persuade me, I wouldn't listen. Emma's slap earlier had somewhat sobered me up. Emma used to be my brother's tutor, and her cold demeanor particularly attracted me. Even knowing she had a boyfriend, I confessed my feelings to her.
It's okay. If you break up, you can consider me.
To see her more often, I stayed around whenever my brother had tutoring sessions. Unfortunately, Emma and Alex had a strong relationship and didn't break up throughout their 4 years of college. After she graduated and started working, we hardly had any chances to meet. While feeling regretful about this unrequited love, I also tried dating others. But none of the relationships lasted long. Later, Emma approached me and suggested we be together. But I had to help Alex pay off his debts from a failed business venture. Tens of thousands weren't much to me, so I agreed. Alex came to see Emma a few times, but she was stubborn. To repay the favor and keep her promise, she didn't accept Alex's pleas. I knew she couldn't forget Alex immediately, but I always believed that if I treated her well, she would eventually forget him.
Alex returned to the country and joined Emma's company. His mother is ill and in the ICU, and Emma often accompanies him to the hospital.
Daniel took the bottle from my hand and pointed to a photo on the table of the two hugging.
Stop drinking. Be strong and break up with her. You're being deceived, John. This woman doesn't care about you at all.
It turned out there was no collaboration, they were spending every day together. I took pictures of all the photos in front of me and sent them to Emma. When I got home that night, I reeked of alcohol. Emma frowned deeply, standing a meter away from me, holding up her phone.
Are you following me?
I looked at her without speaking.
John, can you stop being so childish?
She was so angry that her chest heaved. Her slightly open collar revealed a red mark on her collarbone. I hadn't touched her all week, so the mark could only come from one person. I reached out and touched it expressionlessly.
What is this?
Her eyes flickered, and she slapped my hand away. After taking a deep breath, her eyes filled with tears. She glanced at my face, which still had a faint handprint, and pulled me to sit on the sofa.
I'll get some ice for you to cool it down.
Her attempts to change the subject were always clumsy. But since I was the one she was dealing with, I always gave in. Emma often used the tactic of giving a sweet treat after a slap. The few times we argued, she always reconciled with me this way. When she cried, I lost all reason and believed whatever she said. Rubbing my tired temples, I lowered my hand and felt something hard. Turning my head, I saw a black suit. It was Alex's. I reached into the pocket but didn't have the courage to take it out. My fingers repeatedly rubbed the object. But when I finally saw it, tears uncontrollably streamed down my face. I covered my eyes with one hand and held a marriage certificate with the other. Emma was smiling brightly. I had imagined what I would wear on our wedding day, how I would style my hair, and even practiced my smile in front of the mirror many times. It definitely wouldn't be like Alex, with a slight smile and indifferent eyes. The woman I loved, my girlfriend, had married another man. The reality in front of me made the alcohol in my system start to ferment. I kicked over the coffee table in front of me. Emma ran out from the kitchen and froze when she saw the mess on the floor. The towel wrapped around the ice pack in her hand fell to the ground, and she shivered when she met my bloodshot eyes.
Terrified, John, let me explain.
She walked over and held my clenched fist.
Serious, Alex's mother is seriously ill and wants to see him settle down. When we were together, his mother was very kind to me. I can't just watch her pass away with regrets. Alex and I are in a sham marriage.
Angry, a sham marriage? Didn't you say marriage isn't something to be taken lightly? You've already got the marriage certificate. You're now Alex's wife. What am I to you, Emma? Do you even see me? How long were you planning to keep this from me? Until after you got divorced? How can you be so selfish?
I shook off her hand. In front of her, I tore up their marriage certificate.
Shouting, "What are you doing?"
She looked at the pieces on the floor and was silent for a moment, her tone full of helplessness.
Sad, I knew you'd react like this. How could I dare to tell you? John, I wronged Alex in the past. I just want to make it up to him. Can you stop making a scene? Be mature.
Fine, I won't make a scene. Emma, do whatever you want.
I grabbed the car keys but couldn't get a response after pressing the button for a while. Seeing the car next to me flash, I realized I had taken Emma's keys by mistake. Once in the car, I smoked several cigarettes in a row. My head hurt terribly, so I moved to the back seat to lie down. In a crevice, I found a piece of lingerie. It was something I had bought for Emma a month ago. She had never worn it, yet here it was in the car. Thinking about the marks on her body that night and tonight, I cursed under my breath. I turned the car inside out and found several open packages of protection. Even at our most intense moments, we were always careful. And these were not the brand we usually used. This car was a gift from me to Emma, and my phone could access the dashcam. When I opened the footage, my hands were trembling. But when the explicit scenes appeared on the screen, I couldn't control the pain in my heart. Alex had only been back in the country for 2 months. They had been intimate in the car no less than 10 times. A flash of white light crossed my mind, and I bent over, rushing out of the car to vomit into a trash can. I retched until only bile was left, but my stomach continued to spasm. Forget it, I told myself. The next day, I went to her office. Emma saw me and deliberately suppressed a smile.
Unfriendly, have you realized your mistake?
I walked straight to her lounge and opened the cabinet. Sure enough, everything we had once played with, she had played with Alex. Emma followed me in, hugging me from behind, her fingers unbuttoning my shirt.
Whispering, John, I'll divorce Alex after his mother passes away.
I coldly pulled her hand away, turned around, and threw the car keys at her.
Serious, Emma, maybe I didn't make myself clear last night. By do whatever you want, I meant we're breaking up. Whatever you do with Alex has nothing to do with me.
Emma followed me, blocking the door with her body. She glanced at my haggard face and smiled.
Unfriendly, are you trying to force me to divorce? Why are you always like a child?
After buttoning up, she stood on tiptoe to kiss me, but I frowned and avoided her. Emma's movements stiffened, and her face darkened.
Unfriendly, John, are you serious?
Serious, I'm serious.
Shouting, don't regret it.
The unequal effort in this relationship had given Emma the upper hand. I had given her 100% confidence that I wouldn't leave her, so she dared to blatantly betray me. But I was a living person, not an emotionless puppet. After a few seconds, I shook my head.
Serious, Emma, I won't regret it.
When I got home, I offered to take over the family business. My parents exchanged glances and looked at me with a new expression.
Not going to be a free housekeeper for your girlfriend anymore?
To take better care of Emma, I had turned myself into a house husband. I only traded stocks at home. My parents never liked Emma, and seeing me like this, they even told me not to come home. Our relationship had been strained for years.
Finally, you're thinking clearly.
Although I hadn't worked for years, I never stopped learning. After spending some time with my dad at the company, I was already handling work confidently. My dad finally had time to take my mom out for some fun. Unexpectedly, they ended up in the hospital after a go-karting accident. Seeing my dad with a cast on his leg, I was both angry and amused. After handling his admission procedures, I ran into Emma and Alex hugging downstairs. Alex lazily held her with one arm. Seeing me, he lifted Emma's chin, trying to kiss her. Emma playfully punched his chest and dodged. Alex had always resented me. Back then, I paid off his debt and deliberately said things to hurt his pride. Things like, "It's pathetic to need a woman to clean up your mess." He didn't want Emma to bow to me, but she came to me, almost breaking his leg. Emma said she owed Alex, but wasn't it to save him? I looked away indifferently.
John,
Emma grabbed my sleeve.
what are you doing here?
Emma and I are in a fake marriage. Emma was just helping me out. Don't take it to heart.
My dad's in the hospital.
Is he seriously ill?
I'm going to see him.
That's not necessary.
I refused directly.
He probably wouldn't welcome you.
Thinking of the past, anger gradually appeared on Emma's face. She crossed her arms.
John, are you lying to me? You deliberately came here to see me with Alex.
The more you care, the more I want to ruin it.
Want to hear the truth? You two are disgusting.
Just like before, Emma blocked my contact after our argument. But I wouldn't lower myself to coax her anymore. Seeing me immersed in work every day, my mom was both relieved and wistful.
Son, work is important, but so is your personal life.
She placed a photo in front of me.
Aunt Mary's daughter just returned from abroad. She's beautiful. When she was little, she loved following you around, and you said you'd marry her when you grew up.
I frowned slightly.
Actually, she just went through a breakup and has been down. I thought you were too, so you two could comfort each other.
The girl in the photo had bright eyes and a charming smile. She had 2 small dimples when she smiled. My mom looked hopeful, pressing my documents with both hands.
All right, I'll listen to you.
When Sophia came to find me, I was about to have dinner with a business partner. Her big eyes stared at me, and I gave in, taking her along. During the business discussion, she sat next to me, behaving well and occasionally saying a few words to liven up the atmosphere. The business partner had also studied abroad. For some questions I wasn't confident about, she helped me answer them appropriately. Unsurprisingly, I successfully signed the contract. After the business partner left, she looked at me with a gossipy expression.
John, I heard you were a free housekeeper for your ex-girlfriend for 3 years.
Who told you that?
Aunt Mary did. She also said your ex-girlfriend got married to someone else behind your back. John, that's so sad.
I pressed my throbbing temple and took a deep breath.
What else did my mom tell you?
She took a sip of her drink, looking innocent.
Aunt Mary said we could keep each other company. But your ex-girlfriend was so mean. Don't you want to get back at her?
Before I could react to what she meant, a gentle kiss landed on the corner of my lips. Her fair face enlarged before my eyes, dimples forming on her cheeks, full of mischief.
John, you shouldn't suffer in silence. I'll help you get back at her.
Sophia hugged my stiff arm and turned around. Emma was hugging Alex in the same way. Our eyes met, and a strong anger rose in her beautiful eyes. When I was with Emma, many people had expressed their feelings for me. If she showed even a little jealousy, I would be overjoyed. But possessiveness doesn't mean love. It's like an animal guarding its territory, not because the land is great, but because it belongs to it. Emma could treat me this way, but I couldn't do the same to her. I lowered my eyes, hugged Sophia's waist, and pulled her closer. She was spurred on, raising her chin and giving Emma a disdainful smile.
John, your ex-girlfriend has poor taste. She's not as tall as you, doesn't have your figure, and looks so fragile.
Sophia pretended to click her tongue a few times, her hand taking the opportunity to touch my chest.
You're much better.
Emma and Alex's faces both changed. But my attention wasn't on them. This girl was deliberately taking advantage of me. I grabbed her hand, feeling a bit helpless.
Stop it.
Somehow, these words seemed to provoke Emma. She came over and grabbed my other hand.
John. Hey, if you want to hold hands, find your husband. This is my boyfriend. I have a cleanliness obsession and don't like others touching him.
Emma was stunned for a moment.
You're in a relationship?
Her eyes, gradually turning red, reflected my image. Biting her lip, she looked a bit at a loss.
Are you lying to me?
Alex held her shoulder, wiping away her tears. He looked at me with a dark expression.
John, you shouldn't use a woman to provoke Emma.
I couldn't help but laugh at his words.
So, you two are married, and I can't even date? What? Did you really expect me to wait for you forever? This isn't an act, not to force you to divorce, and not some childish trick to make you jealous. I've truly moved on, Emma.
The atmosphere was tense. Emma stubbornly stared at me, not saying a word. Sophia suddenly spoke up.
What? Do you need us to kiss in front of you to believe it?
You are the one who was unfaithful first, acting all pitiful for whom?
A tear finally fell from Emma's eye.
Is that what you and she say about me?
John isn't that bad, talking behind your back.
You've married someone else. Can you still be innocent?
And what about you too? We're a couple, openly together. Even if I take him home now, it's none of your business.
Emma picked up a water glass from the table and splashed it at Sophia. I pulled her behind me. She splashed with such force that my face stung slightly.
John, are you okay?
She wiped away the water droplets. I opened my eyes and looked her over. Seeing she was clean, I sighed in relief.
Emma, don't touch her.
I turned to warn Emma.
Do I have to spell out what you've done? I saw the footage from the dashcam. You know exactly what it showed.
Usually calm, Emma was now flustered. Alex, standing beside her, finally dropped his indifferent expression.
If it weren't for you, Emma and I wouldn't have missed so many years. You've kept her for so long but couldn't win her heart. That's your own fault.
Alex glanced at Sophia in my arms.
Found a new love so quickly. John, admit it. You're just jealous that Emma loves me and trying to forget her with someone else. Ask yourself, can you really forget her?
Emma's expression softened significantly.
Whether I can forget her or not isn't up to you.
I turned with Sophia in my arms.
If it weren't for me, you'd have been beaten to death back then. To put it bluntly, Emma came to you willingly. If you couldn't keep her, who can you blame?
As we were about to leave the restaurant, Sophia slipped out of my arms, ran back, and threw her half-full glass of water straight at Emma's face.
Returning it to you.
She smiled broadly. Emma blinked, water dripping down her cheeks. Holding Alex's hand, she looked up at me, as if waiting for something.
Miss, let's go.
After getting in the car, Sophia's small face leaned close to mine. It reminded me of when she was little, following me around, barely able to speak but always calling my name clearly. My heart softened, and I pushed her forehead with my finger.
Don't do it again.
Really? You're still hung up on that woman?
You've been wronged, and you're still so magnanimous. Impressive.
Where do you see magnanimity? I just want to end things gracefully for both of us. After all, she's a girl, and reputation matters.
Sophia suddenly fell silent, and after a long time, she sighed heavily.
John, you haven't changed a bit.
What, did your ex-boyfriend hurt you badly?
Her face darkened.
Don't mention that jerk. He even showed our intimate photos to his friends.
Sophia sniffled, feeling wronged, and threw herself into my arms.
I'm so cute. How did I end up with a jerk?
She cried for a while and then added,
You're so love-struck. No wonder you ended up with a bad woman.
Was she praising me while putting me down? I didn't bother arguing with her and patted her head.
Don't wipe your nose on me.
I will.
Her hands roamed over me for a while. Sophia looked up and hugged my neck.
John, I realize you have a great physique. How could she bear to leave you?
My eyelid twitched, and I held her hand that was moving downward.
Get off.
She pinched my face, looking serious.
John, why don't we give it a try? Didn't you say you'd marry me when we were kids? If I hadn't got abroad early, we might have been married by now.
A faint fragrance filled my nose. I finally broke free from her hands. Seeing her cheeks puffed up in anger, I pinched them.
We'll see.
My mom had placed Sophia in my company as my assistant, and she was always trying to seduce me. When she once again batted her big eyes and invited me to dinner, I stopped my work and pulled her into my arms.
Are you serious?
Absolutely serious.
Not just playing around?
Cross my heart.
I smiled, pinched her soft cheek, and kissed her dimples.
Then let's give it a try.
We hadn't been dating long when my mom started planning an engagement party. She said she didn't want to wrong Sophia. Looking at the person sleeping in my arms, her face still flushed, I asked,
Do we need to get engaged first?
The ring should have a big diamond.
Okay. I poked her dimples.
The engagement party wasn't grand. But photos inevitably leaked out. Emma sent me several friend requests, but I didn't accept any of them. Sophia insisted on eating my cooking, so I left work early to buy groceries, only to find Emma squatting at my doorstep.
John.
She called me softly. I opened the door.
Come in.
After pouring her a glass of water, Emma hugged me directly. I frowned and pushed her away.
I let you in out of courtesy. Emma, my fiancée, would mind. If there's nothing important, please don't come again.
She looked at the new items in my house, most of them pink. When we used to fight, she would tell me to leave. But actually, the house we lived in was one I bought for her. In this relationship, I didn't feel I owed Emma anything.
Do you like her?
She stared at the ring on my hand without blinking. I nodded.
But didn't you say you would only marry me?
I reminded her of this fact. Emma blinked and took a small booklet from her bag, opening it in front of me.
John, I'm divorced. I told you, my marriage with Alex was fake. Will you propose to me again? I'll definitely say yes this time.
Emma forcefully stuffed the divorce certificate into my hand. I avoided touching her, and the document fell to the ground. On the open page, both she and Alex looked expressionless.
John, only you would go through recipes to make my favorite dishes, bring me meals to the office every day, and surprise me on various holidays.
Emma's eyes were red, and she rarely looked so meek.
I actually stopped loving Alex a long time ago. I love you. I just didn't realize it.
Doesn't Alex still care about you? How could he agree to a divorce?
Emma shook her head in confusion.
No, it's not like that. He's changed. He resented me for leaving him to be with you. Being with me was just to spite you. He's nothing like you. He never tried to make me happy or help with the laundry.
Emma started crying as she spoke.
John, can you forgive me?
I picked up the divorce certificate from the floor, feeling a sense of irony.
You just can't handle not having a caring partner. And, Emma, what makes you think I'd marry a divorced woman?
I had never spoken so harshly to her before. She staggered, gripping her palm tightly. I handed the certificate back to her and showed her the door.
My fiancée will be home soon. She won't be happy to see you. I'll send you an invitation when we have the wedding.
Do you really think it's kind to make me witness your happiness?
Kind? I once loved you with all my heart and proposed to you so many times, but you always refused. You married your first love behind my back and were intimate with him multiple times. Emma, when it comes to cruelty, who can compare to you?
Her eyes suddenly filled with hope.
John, you still care. You haven't let go of me, have you?
I looked down and twisted the ring on my finger, thinking of Sophia's face.
It's precisely because I've let go that I can talk about it so calmly. Emma, I don't hold a grudge because I want this relationship to end with dignity. Don't cling to it.
I narrowed my eyes and warned her.
And don't bother Sophia. She's not as calculating as you. I don't want her to get hurt. Otherwise, don't blame me for retaliating.
Emma's face turned pale instantly. She bit her lip, clutching the divorce certificate. After standing there for a long time, she wiped her tears with the back of her hand and pleaded softly.
Can you hug me one more time?
I carried the groceries into the kitchen. My silent refusal finally broke her last defense. Emma straightened her back, but her body trembled. The door closed, and we became strangers. Alex had left his job because of Emma. He came back because of her mother's situation. The money wasn't enough, and Emma helped out a lot, but they couldn't save her. They had lost the purity they once had, and soon after being together, they had many conflicts. Alex even lost several big deals for the company. Saying he resigned was Emma giving him dignity. Meanwhile, my relationship with Sophia grew stronger. Sophia was different from Emma. She was clingy and direct in expressing her love. With her, I didn't have to be so cautious. When we discussed marriage, she poked my face and said,
Invite your ex-girlfriend,
Why invite her?
so she can see what a great catch she missed out on.
I stroked her hair and hugged her with a smile.
I'll do whatever my wife says.
Her eyes lit up, and she playfully tugged at my chin.
Say it again.
For some reason, I felt very happy. Emma never liked me calling her that, but she didn't know how much I wanted to marry her back then. Two flowers bloom, each on its own. A wrong encounter never leads to a perfect ending. Emma didn't come to our wedding. She sent a big red envelope with a card inside. The password was my birthday, and the money was probably to repay for the house and car. Sophia muttered.
She still has some pride. Then why did she cheat in the first place?
She pondered for a while and then frowned.
But if she hadn't cheated, I wouldn't be here. Thank goodness.
Sophia patted my face.
Thank goodness she sacrificed herself.
I didn't argue. I knew she was being sarcastic. But I didn't expect Sophia to send Emma wedding candies. Everyone in the company knew that after breaking up with Emma, I married a lovely and charming woman from a well-matched family. At night.
You're not mad, are you?
She glanced at me occasionally.
As long as you're happy.
I kissed her cheek. She stood up for me. How could I blame her? The person who truly cares about you can see your pain. Luckily, I found that person.